Okay, we're live. Hello, it's Bill, the knee pain guru, and welcome to the Ask Dr. Beck show. Welcome, Dr. Beck.
Good morning, Bill. Good morning, everyone.
How have you been? What's going on?
Well, the spring, we're in a Monty Python movie. You know, it got warm. Spring came. Then we went back to winter.
Yeah.
We're not quite back to spring yet, although summer might make an appearance this week.
Yeah. Well, same over here. It was 80 a week ago Tuesday. It snowed over the weekend.
Yeah.
And then it's been, not too bad. It's been nice weather, but
yeah.
just
A lot of the trees are having buds on them, and so life is coming back, and it's neat to watch.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And how is the office? How is that?
Still not done.
Still not done.
Yep. Got a bunch of snails working on things, and so it takes them a while to hammer a nail.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, it's pretty amazing. I'm really learning the pivot of focusing on something different.
Yes. It's coming along. It's just a whole lot slower than we'd like.
Well, good. Any insights with patients this past week?
Yeah, I may share a bit after we have a question. Because, there's some things that my brain's trying to wrap around that I see in the practice, and that seem to be patterns that show up more than once.
Okay. Well, we have we are going to talk about osteoporosis today.
Well, look at that. Fabulous.
So the question here is, Dr. Beck, I sent a message to you some months ago explaining I haven't felt right since my thyroid operation, as the right one was cancerous in autumn of 2019.
Okay.
This is Ann Brown. This is, I think it was last week or the week before, about her situation with the pain she was feeling in her lower legs as a result of the drugs, prescriptions that she was taking.
Sure.
She continues, I also have osteoporosis in both knees and been in Bill's program for a few years. With his help in doing the modules, I managed to keep the pain at bay. As I haven't been getting the attention from my doctors owing to COVID, I've been suffering from stress and anxiety, and there again have been months before I can speak to a counselor. I saw my doctor on January 11th of this year, and he prescribed an antidepressant tablet called CITALOPRAM.
Yep.
Milligrams. I told him that I wasn't depressed, just anxious, and was having to wait so long to see the specialist. Did we
talked about that last week?
Okay. Well, why don't we just talk about osteoporosis?
Okay. Sounds good.
What is the cause of osteoporosis? Is there one cause? Or is there multiple causes?
More than one cause. More than one cause, but so we have, let me think about how to lay the foundation for this discussion. Our bodies are in a continual state of remodeling. Think of remodeling a house, right? We're going to redo the bathroom. Well, we might change the paint color. It's really hard to move the place where the shower is without having a surgeon involved. Okay. So it's not a great analogy, but basically what happens is our cells wear out. They have a lifespan. And the body will take those cells that are worn out, take them away, and replace them with new cells. That is the continual remodeling that we do. So for our skin, for example, it takes 28 days for the new cells at the bottom of the skin layer to work their way all the way to the top and be the skin that we would feel on the surface. In the gut, the turnover takes around 5 days. Much of what we see that comes out our rear end when we sit on the commode is our skin cells and dead bacteria. Okay, so the bones, a little different. It takes a longer time period. And the statistics that I learned was that in 7 years, you have replaced every bone cell in your body. Okay, so bones are always being taken down. Bones are always being replaced. And in order to, and I'm not going to get too technical, but in order to keep those bones at the same density, you have to have balance in the system. If you have too many workers taking bone down, not enough workers putting bone back, you wind up with a deficit. Okay. And that deficit, then, what I just described, would be at the beginning osteopenia. So bones that on an x-ray don't look as thick as they should. And then at its end, osteoporosis. So bones that are less dense. Some people use the analogy that they're like Swiss cheese. And so what happens is you've broken down bone faster than you can rebuild it. Okay. And there is, in the last, I'll say probably 3 to 5 years, a lot of new research that's come out around bones and how they communicate with the body, and fascinating stuff. But I'm going to try to stick to the simple parts, and we'll describe what bone's made of. We'll describe the basics of the nutrients that you need, the nutrients also that you do not need in your bones, and where you can get those, or at least some of the places you can get them. So living bone, and unless you're a surgeon or a veterinarian, most of the bones that we see as common adults are dead. So we'll get the bone out of a T-bone steak, for example, and we think that that bone, the dead bone, is equivalent to living bone, and they're not anywhere close to being similar. So bone is made up of collagen, and there are a couple different kinds of collagen, but for all intents and purposes, collagen is the stretchy scuff in our skin. So when you pull your skin up, collagen is what allows it to not tear and fold and do the things that it does. And so that is a part of bone. It's the matrix around which the minerals are laid down. And calcium is one of the big minerals. It's the majority, but it isn't the only mineral. So you can get trace minerals that are also in bone. And the minerals are what makes the bone hard. So in dead bone, the collagen effectively dries up. It's a wet substance. So when you're seeing that bone, you buy it from the butcher, the collagen is still part of the bone, but it doesn't function like it does when the bone is alive.
That shininess and slippery.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so that the bone, then living bone, has the properties of being hard. So that's the minerals, and at the same time being a little springy. Okay. And so the way that I relate it now, I've done a fair number of construction jobs in my life, and so these analogies work for me. But if you find drywall in your house that is in between a stud, so you're just feeling the drywall, and you put your thumb out, push on the drywall with most of your body weight, what you're going to find is that drywall flexes just a little bit. I'm not talking a lot. This is not enough to chip the paint or anything like that. But it doesn't feel like, if you do the same thing to a concrete pillar or a steel I-beam, those things, for the strength that we have, don't move. Drywall does. And that is what a healthy living bone should feel like under your hands. Okay, so that living bone has a little bit of flexibility to it. It's what allows us to be able to walk and not break things. All right. So that's what healthy bones should feel like under your hands. We've covered what it's made of.
Mm-hmm.
Now, calcium for our body, and we have to go back to high school chemistry.
Mm-hmm.
When we're talking about acids and bases, we can add a buffer to a solution that is too acidic or too basic, and we can bring it back closer to neutral pH. So the buffer that our body uses, and this is very critical and important, is calcium. So if you are, and I'm statistically just making this as bad as I can, if you are an elderly female, because if you believe what the books say, at roughly age 40, you stop depositing bone. Okay. And as this elderly female, you consume a fair amount of carbonated beverages, which, as they go into the stomach, are acidic. Your stomach will use the calcium that's stored in your bones as a buffer to buffer the acid in the stomach. And so over time, now this is not, if you drink one soda, this is not going to happen. But if you're drinking 3 or 4 sodas a day for 20 years, yes, you now have a deficiency in calcium because your body has taken it from the bones.
Mm-hmm.
So there are practices that you can do which limit those, the taking away of the calcium.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things you can do is weight-bearing exercise. Okay, now it could be going to the gym. That is what most people hear. What I tell my patients is, let's make it easy. A gallon of water weighs 8 pounds. And so you can go buy a gallon of milk, plastic container, clean that container out really well so that it doesn't mold, and you can fill it with water.
Mm-hmm.
That's 8 pounds. A half-gallon container would be 4 pounds. The great thing is, if you happen to drop those, and if you drop them on your foot, for example, they are plastic and they will deform, and theoretically they won't break bones. And so then when you go get the mail, for example, you can just pick up a gallon of milk and you carry it to the mailbox and you grab your mail and you carry it back. You have now done weight-bearing exercise.
Mm-hmm.
And so it doesn't have to be costly. It doesn't have to be complicated. If, for example, you go out and you're working in the garden and you have a backpack, well, stick a sandbag in your backpack. Make it 10 pounds. Wear your backpack all day. Weight-bearing exercise, which is fabulous. So it doesn't have to be complicated. That weight-bearing exercise then activates Wolff's Law. And Wolff's Law is that the body, and in this case the bones, will grow based upon the forces based upon them. So if we are, and we'll go back to elderly female, and you don't do weight-bearing exercise, what Wolff's Law says is that your bones will be the strength that they need to do the maximum of the things that you do on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're a couch potato and you get up and you walk and you go to the bathroom and you cook dinner and you don't do any weight-bearing exercises, your bones get strong enough to support that. And they don't really go past that.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to be able to do things like shoveling snow, which is something that you wouldn't normally do, you have to exercise. You have to do something involving weight, and you do it consistently over time. You don't have to do it for hours and hours a day. You can do it for 3 to 5 minutes, and it's no problem. And then over time, your bones get thicker. They get more dense.
Mm-hmm.
So that is one of the ways that you can help to combat osteoporosis. Second thing is that we have to have the basic building blocks for building bones.
Mm-hmm.
And what we have to understand is how industry works, and in many ways, how we've been coerced into thinking that advertising is correct.
Mm-hmm.
So we are taught to believe that calcium is all that we need for bones. And remember, I said the bones are made up of minerals, of which calcium plays a large portion, but calcium is not the only thing. And so typically what happens is if we're going to take a calcium supplement, this is something that in industry, we need to make sure that when it goes into your body, it doesn't have any bacteria in it, for example. And so what we'll do is we'll take coral calcium, or we'll take pig and cow bones that come from processing those animals, and we will heat them, and the heating drives off all the minerals, kills all the bacteria, leaves only calcium. Now, when you go into your garden, do you have a calcium plant? I've never seen one, right?
What?
I've never seen a calcium plant.
No.
I have never seen a calcium animal. And so nature doesn't work in that single element.
Okay.
Nature gives you something with calcium in it. And in theory, the preparation and the making of the dish that you would eat brings in the calcium along with the things that support calcium being absorbed into the body. Okay, so most of the trace mineral, or sorry, most of the calcium complexes that you can get as a vitamin aren't really doing you any good. Your body doesn't understand how to use them. So what I recommend to my patients is there is a substance which is processed differently, and it's called MCHC. It stands for microcrystalline hydroxyapatite complex.
Mm-hmm.
MCHC. And basically, it's the calcium with the minerals that your body needs to be able to use the calcium left in it.
Mm-hmm.
And studies show that actually helps to rebuild bone. So that's if you want things in a pill form. If you want to go more grandparents or great grandparents old school, you can do bone broth. And so
Okay.
basically what we're going to do there is we're going to take bones out of an animal. We're going to put them in a pot, add water, boil it until the nutrients that are in those bones come out. And then we're going to drink that. And
Mhm.
that is also in a form that your body can understand, and it will help strengthen your bones. The great thing is that because it puts collagen in, helps your joints as well and helps your skin.
Mhm.
Then if we're going to do vitamins, and there's a lot of research on this, especially in the last few years, but vitamin D is important.
Mhm.
And vitamin D is something that historically we get from the sun. Nope. Mean corpuscular hemoglobin concentration. Not MCHC as in the supplement.
This is a supplement? Oh, this
Nope.
is
That's a blood test.
supplement. This stuff?
Yep. Yep, that'll do. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So something like that containing MCHC. So
Right.
when it comes to vitamin D, the sun again will generate vitamin D if we have exposed skin. And if you draw a line, and I think that line went from San Francisco to Atlanta. I'm pretty sure that's what it was. If you live below that line and you go out in the sun, you theoretically, if you have exposed skin, can get enough of solar radiation to trigger vitamin D.
Mhm.
And you get adequate vitamin D production. Well, I live north of that line by, 8 or 9 hours driving due south. So it's not going to happen for me. And what I tell my patients is in the middle of winter, even if you were naked on your roof so that no one could see you, so
Mhm.
full skin exposure in the winter sun,
Mhm.
you aren't going to get nearly enough vitamin D. So you have to supplement.
Mm.
And when you supplement, there are a couple different forms of vitamin D. There's the liquid form. This is typically what you're going to buy in capsules.
Mhm.
And the liquid form is typically soybean oil. And I don't recommend that one. Mostly it's low concentration. If you want to take a fair amount, you're taking half a bottle full of pills every day.
Mhm.
So the powder form comes from sheep lanolin, and you can get a much higher concentration. Now, what I recommend for most folks, wintertime, let's say, is that you take 10 or more thousand IUs, international units, of vitamin D every day. That vitamin D, if you're going to go to that 10,000 number, needs to have vitamin K with it. So vitamin D is a messenger for the body. Vitamin D says, hey, store calcium, but it doesn't say where. And so
Mhm.
you can store that calcium in the tissues. If you take vitamin K along with it, the vitamin K says, oh, if you're going to store the calcium, please store it in the bones.
Mhm.
Okay. So 10,000 IUs per day, vitamin D with vitamin K, along with your MCHC complex or bone broth. And your osteoporosis is at a minimum going to stop getting worse. And at a maximum, if you add in weight bearing exercise, it's going to get better.
Mhm. Uh, Thank you. That was, I like how you broke that down. I do have a question though regarding hydration, and I know you made the reference to sodas or
Yeah.
pop, and
Yeah.
people drink that, and over a period of time, that pulls the calcium out of the bones.
It's the acidity, it's the bubbles basically, right?
Okay.
That's what pulls the calcium out.
Okay. So the acidity pulls the calcium out of the
Yeah.
bones. How does hydration, meaning water specifically,
Yes.
play in that scenario? So if a person is drinking soda and they're drinking lots of water as well, does that negate it? Can you give an idea?
Yep.
Because
Yep. So we gotta break that down.
okay.
Soda is a diuretic. Okay.
Mhm.
And so if we just stick with and we're looking at water amount in the body, you drink a 20-ounce soda, it is going to make you pee more than 20 ounces out. That's what diuretic means.
Right.
Okay. And so the things that fall into the diuretic category, coffee, black tea, soda pop, alcohol, and believe it or not, hot chocolate. Um, Now, what I typically do is say, hey, if you like your coffee, by all means, drink a cup of coffee. Follow it with a cup of water, and we're going to call that a net zero. So you're going to put liquid in, and liquid's going to come out, but you really haven't gone toward putting more liquid into your body because you drank something that was a diuretic.
Right.
And so then, number wise, what we're supposed to do is our body weight in pounds, that number, half of it in ounces of water per day.
Your body weight in pounds.
Body weight in pounds, right?
In
So
ounces
let's
of
make the
water.
number simple. If you weigh 200 pounds,
Right.
you'd be drinking 100 ounces of water per day.
Got it. Okay.
And 64 ounces is a half gallon, 128 is a full gallon.
Got it. Okay. Okay. That makes sense. That answers my question much deeper than well, there's lots of options there.
Yes.
Lots of ways to approach the osteoporosis scenario, and very simple, easy to implement ways,
Right.
things you can do today.
Exactly.
Cool. Awesome. And I think, well, osteoporosis usually leads to broken bones. Broken bones can be quite painful.
And if you wind up with hip fracture, which
Mhm.
is the most common for people with osteoporosis, the statistics continue to be kind of dismal for being able to make it out of the hospital alive. And there are just a lot of complications that go along with the hip fracture. So in that case, it is far better to keep your bones healthy and stay out of the hospital.
Yeah. That's a whole lymphatic and mobility and
Right.
all that conversation. Sure. That makes total sense. Okay. Let's see. For those that are watching and or watching the replay, if you have any questions, you can submit those in the live chat or the comments section. We'll use those on future videos. You can also go and submit your questions to the ComellaFoundation.org and go to the Ask Dr. Beck link at the very top of the page to submit your question. And then we will address those questions on the next video. Let's see. We want to do a little promo thing here. Let's do that real quick, and we'll be right back. Our mission at the Comella Foundation is to relieve pain naturally using osteopathic healing principles. The Comella Foundation is recognized as a nonprofit 501c3 under the Internal Revenue Code. Your contributions are greatly appreciated. Please consider taking a moment and donating to the Comella Foundation to help us continue our important pain-relieving work. Every little bit helps. And we're back. So here we are. There was something else you potentially wanted to share with us after we answered the question or addressed today?
Yeah. We've talked before in previous episodes about the nervous system and sympathetic and parasympathetic. So our fight or flight and rest and digest. And as I share these stories with my patients and I hear their stories, I realized this week that we have in our society, we're starting to kind of hobble ourselves in our ability to react the way our bodies have been programmed to. Mm-hmm. So, and I'm pretty much only going to deal with sympathetic nervous system. That's the gas pedal. Mm-hmm. And for us, sympathetic nervous system is a light switch. It's on or it's off. So you're either sitting still or your body's freaking out and saying, we've got to get away from the danger. That's the way we're programmed. Right. And so what happens is we have fight, flight, or freeze. Those are the things that are programmed into our system. And the more I talked with people, the more I realized, wow, okay, so, and Bill, I'll take you as the example here. Mm-hmm. If we trigger your sympathetic nervous system, you are an adult. Rationally, fighting has consequences in our society. Even if you are getting bullied, if you fight back, which is what your body's wired to do, you risk going to jail. Right. I mean, and so that weighs on you. And then for many people, because of the way that we've been taught, can take that option off the table. Mm-hmm. So fighting is bad. Then the second one is fleeing. And it's interesting because if you watch the news, people that run away get shot by the cops. Not something I'd like to have happen. So it's off the table. Right. And so what's happened is society is now taking the multitude of options that we may have had, let's say 200 years ago, because society didn't look at us the same way. And now our option is to freeze. And so freezing for our bodies is doing the best we can to become a chameleon and blend into the features of the room so that no one sees me. Mm-hmm. It's our body's way of getting out of the situation. Mm-hmm. And so if you do that, and I often see this in people who are in school or college, And if you do that and the teacher still calls on you, now all of your defense mechanisms are off the table. Can't fight because you're going to get in trouble. If you're a student, you're going to get sent to the principal's office, potentially expelled. Can't run because you can't leave class without a hall pass. And all you can do is freeze. And if freezing doesn't work, then your body's out of the simple options.
Mm-hmm.
And what tends to happen is panic attack. Now I'm quite convinced inside my body, and again, if we're putting you in this, you're quite convinced that you're going to die and that you have no options.
Mm-hmm.
And so your body does what it's programmed to do. It hyperventilates, it sweats, it does things that in society we don't recognize as a sympathetic nervous system thing that's going on. And people look at it as a bad thing, for which we should give people medication. And my brain doesn't work that way. I don't wrap my head around it like that anymore. It's, oh, your nervous system is responding. We got to figure a way for you to be able to let that nervous system express that stuck energy.
Mm-hmm.
And whatever that happens to be, if you color, if you meditate, it doesn't matter, something that removes you from the situation and allows you to get rid of the energy that caused it.
Mm.
So that was my big revelation for this week.
Yeah, a constructive outlet, I hear.
Yeah.
For the stress that builds up as a result of not being able to fight and not being able to run away.
Correct. And this is why things like fidget spinners are a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's something that society says you can do to release energy.
Huh. Is it? But is the fidget spinner constructive? That's what I look at. I see.
My only question is, in the exact moment where you need it, is it beneficial?
Okay.
Because there may be moments where it's just a diversion and it's an excuse to keep you from doing things. I'll go right along with that. But, interestingly enough, if we go back to school in the frontier days.
Yes.
You walked to school or you rode a horse.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there weren't school buses. They weren't invented.
Right.
And at recess, there weren't computers. You went outside and you played.
Mm-hmm.
Then you went home and you did chores. All of them were physical. They helped release that energy.
Mm-hmm.
And now our releasing of energy for many kids is to sit in front of a video game.
Mm.
And the only energy you're going to expend is the amount that it takes to move your thumb a quarter of an inch here or there.
Mm.
And it's just a different society.
Right. Not great options. Well,
Nope.
Actually, we have more options now, but I think there's lots of it's an easy gutter ball to throw, to end up futzing with the fidget spinner or looking at your phone or sitting in front of a computer. It's a lazy way easy way to default and do that. And it takes a little bit more discipline, a little bit more commitment to not want to be that way.
Right.
Like, let's say someone might take up homesteading with chickens and
right.
growing things.
And roosters and learn lots of things.
And you're always busy.
And oh goodness, yeah, sometimes more than you'd like.
Yeah. So, okay. Well, it takes us to, a little bit past the top of the hour. But, I want to thank you so much for your time and your expertise and sharing your information. This was a really good one on osteoporosis. That's fantastic. Well, Charlie, Dr. Beck, my brother.
Thank you, my brother.
You have a wonderful day.
You as well.
Thank you so much, and we will see you all next week.
Have a good week, everyone.